Guys, I am back with another video for you guys today. This is going to be a story basically about the house that I grew up in when I was a teenager. But before I started into the story, there was a couple things that I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about. First of all, I just want to thank everybody who has came over here and subscribed. I really, really appreciate it. Second thing is, it's my best friend. She pretty much went through a lot of the things that I am going to be talking about in future videos, and I have been doing my darndest to get her to either collab with me on those types of videos where she also experienced things on the land that we lived on back in West Virginia, or actually do this channel with me, which I would prefer that she did this channel with me because she is amazing at telling stories. Like, she has a way to tell a story to really like pull you in and make you feel like you're there. If you guys wouldn't mind, please leave comments down below and let Missy know that you guys would love to see her on this channel as well. So I'll start out by saying that when I was 14 years old, my mom died. And me and my sister, we went to live with my aunt, which was my mom's sister. And the house that she lived in was actually my uncle, her husband's family. And when he got married, they pretty much just moved out into another place and gave him the house. So the house was pretty much one level, but it did have a full basement, and there was my uncle's aunt. She was an elderly woman, and she lived in half of the basement. So the way that this house looked, if you was to pull up into the driveway, you would think that there was only one level, but if you would to go down the main road in front of the house, you would see that there was definitely a basement underneath, and she had her own door to come and go. So anyway, the way that this basement was set up, it was pretty much divided in half. Half is where Aunt May, that's what we called her, Aunt May, lived, and the other half of the basement is where my aunt and uncle had their laundry, their washer and dryer and things like that. And then there was a cellar that had a separate door that they kept closed. They really didn't have much anything in the cellar. I think my uncle may have kept some, I don't know, random bits of tractors and things like that, because they used to have a garden all the time, and I think they used it for that. I don't really remember ever going in there and seeing like canned foods or anything like that. But anyway, when me and my sister moved in, I did have a younger cousin, which was my aunt's daughter, and she is 5 years younger than me, 4 years younger than my sister. Everything was fine right up until probably when I turned 16. Late 15, 16 years old is when things started getting a little hairy. Okay, one day, this is as far as I can remember. Okay, this is where I feel that it started. One day, we had went to my grandmother's house. This was my dad's mom. Someone that we really didn't get to see a whole lot of when my mom was alive. We went to her house one weekend, and a lot of my cousins were there that was from out of town. They had came in to visit one summer, and I remember it was my cousin Jennifer and my cousin Molly and me and my sister. And we had went into one of my grandma's bedrooms while we were there. I don't remember who had it or who brought it, but basically someone other than me and my sister had a Ouija board. And at the time, I did not even know what a Ouija board was. I think it was probably my cousin Molly that kind of explained everything. And then I can remember sitting in the room, and we were talking to this spirit, and I think his name was Axe. I think that was his name. And he spelled it A-X-E. Well, this spirit was apparently, I don't know, intrigued with my sister. And he only wanted to speak if my sister had her hands on the little planchette. So I remember, talking to the spirit. I don't remember exact details of what he said, but I remember us trying a little trick with all of our rings. I remember that I took one of my rings off, and my cousin Molly did the same, and my cousin Jennifer, and then my sister. And we put our rings on each of the four corners. We had a candle lit as well. And, all the lights were off and everything, and we kind of stopped looking at the board, gave it about 5-10 minutes, and then the whole purpose of the spirit was actually supposed to move our rings from corner to corner. After about 5 to 10 minutes, all of us girls turned back around and looked at the board, and our rings had been moved. They were not moved to opposite corners or anything, but you could tell one of the rings at the top corner had moved to the middle of the board, in the middle of the top, and another had started to move down as well. It's almost like the spirits were moving them, but they never had enough time to finish the job before we turned around and saw it again. That's the first experience that we had with the Ouija board. But by that experience, that made me extremely crazy about the Ouija board. All I would think about was using the Ouija board. I wanted a Ouija board. I wanted to learn how to make one because I found out at my school that you could actually make them. Well, as you guys know, in my last video, I pretty much said after my first paranormal experience and my aunt confirming that I had saw my great-grandpa, I was hooked on the afterlife and finding out about the afterlife and this and that and the other. So for me to get hooked on something like the Ouija board was not surprising. So anyway, I couldn't buy a Ouija board because I was only like 15, 16 years old, and my aunt and uncle probably would have never allowed it in the house in the first place. But anyway, I learned how to make one. And I remembered my aunt used to sell Avon, so I took one of her Avon boxes, then I cut it up, and I made my first Ouija board. And it was out of the Avon box, and I took a permanent marker, and I drew on it like the Ouija board was. And the planchette was just part of the Avon box as well. They say that the planchette needs to stick up off the board, but mine didn't. Mine was just a flat piece of cardboard, and it worked just as good. And I remember me and my sister and my cousin, we played with that Ouija board all the time. And the same spirit, Axe, that came through and was talking to my sister, he came through on that board and was the exact same way with my sister in that board, which was really freaky. Well, anyway, after about a month or so of me and my sister and my cousin constantly playing with the board, I began to notice like changes in all three of us. We used to get along pretty decently, and we liked to play together a lot on the weekends and everything like that. Well, we started becoming more I guess mean to each other, and whenever we would get off the bus, we would literally run to the house to get the Ouija board and play with it. That would be the only thing that we could think about when we stepped off that bus, was get in the house so we could play with the Ouija board. It got pretty bad to where we were fighting all the time, and I remember my aunt not knowing what was going on, why we were fighting so much. She was getting really, really frustrated. I couldn't figure it out. And then one day at school, one of my friends was telling me, we were talking about the Ouija board, and they were telling me some of the side effects from it, and it scared me because I knew that all three of us girls were basically getting pretty much obsessed with the Ouija board, and the reason why we were being so mean to one another and hostile towards one another was because of the negative energy from it. Me and my sister and my cousin got so bad that I remember one night being so scared of my cousin that I actually was starting to sleep with butcher knives under my pillow because I was so scared that she was going to like flip out and come in my room and like try to hurt me in the middle of the night, because she was getting probably the most violent. After I talked to my friend, I kind of started like hanging back a little bit, and my sister, she was pretty like hostile towards my cousin, but at the same time my sister was seeing things. Like I remember one night we had all went to sleep, and my sister woke us up. I'm not really even sure what time it was, but it was early in the morning hour. She was screaming, and we ran in there. Was like, what's going on? What's going on? And the way that their room was, we lived by the main road, so when cars would come up the main road, the lights would kind of transfer into their bedroom window and shine like shadows or whatever on their wall, but their window was pretty far off the ground to where if you were outside their room, you would physically have to have a ladder to get up to their window. So anyway, my sister was screaming. We was asking her what was wrong, and she was just like, I saw the devil in my window. I saw the devil. I know it was the devil. And she had described this head when she saw a car coming down the road, and it woke her up, and she looked up onto the wall, and well, like right by her bed, and she said there was a shadow of this head that was looking through the window, and it had horns. And that pretty much freaked me out to the point that I was just like, oh my god, I was scared. Well, anyway, after that, I'm not really sure how it happened, but my aunt found out that we were playing with the Ouija. They immediately made us throw it away, and my uncle actually took it himself. It was always kept in my room under my bed because the other two didn't want it in their room. So he physically took it out himself and he threw it away. Well, I still can't believe this happened to this day. They say things like this could happen, but I never really truly believed it. But one day I came home from school, and my aunt, she was upset because I always had a messy room. And she was wanting us to clean our rooms, and she was just like, you guys get in there and you get your rooms cleaned right now. So I go in my bedroom, I'm cleaning my room, I get down and I'm cleaning out from under my bed, because that's normally where I was sticking everything, what teenager wouldn't. And then all of a sudden I feel something that felt strange to me, and when I reached my hand over the bed and pulled it out, it was the Ouija board. And I know you guys are probably sitting there thinking, I thought you just said your uncle threw it away. He did throw it away. I have no idea how that Ouija board got back under the bed. I actually took it in there and asked my aunt if my uncle had, in fact, threw away the Ouija board. And he came through the door and he was like, what are you doing with that again? I put that out in the trash. No one went and got that. The trash was at the end of our long driveway down at the main road. I don't know how the Ouija board got back in my room, guys. It boggles my mind to this day. I don't know, but it happened. It was under my bed. And after that, I was done. I didn't want to play with it anymore or nothing. Well, my uncle took it from me then, and that evening he actually took it out and burned it when he burned the rest of our trash. I never saw the Ouija board again. However, stuff started happening in the house. We would hear noises. We would hear knocks. During the daytime when those three girls would be home, because my aunt worked and my uncle, a lot of times he would be working in the garden. This was when we were on summer vacation. One day we were all sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden in the basement, this was after my uncle's aunt had been put in a nursing home because she just got so old and everything, so they thought it would be better to put her in a nursing home. She wasn't in the basement anymore, and all of a sudden we were sitting there watching TV, and we heard this horrendous crash. And we got up and we ran to the basement stairs, and it literally sounded like one of my uncle's big toolboxes was slammed down onto the concrete floor downstairs. Well, it took us girls forever to get up the courage to go down there and see what it was. And when we finally went down there was nothing there. There was no one there. Nothing was out of place. Nothing was turned over. We have no idea what that sound was. And there was a couple times where I was laying in my room at nighttime, and I would be laying there on my stomach reading or something, and I would physically feel like someone was coming in the door behind me. And when I would turn around and look, of course, there would be no one there. And then a few seconds after that, I would feel like a touch, like someone took one finger and touched me on the shoulder. One day I was brushing my hair in my mirror, and my room kind of faced the hallway, so if my room was right here, and I was standing here brushing my hair, this was a straight hallway right here. I could see straight down the hallway. Well, one day I was sitting there brushing my hair, and I happened to see something move out of the corner of my eye, and I glanced down the hallway, and I saw this woman, like a physical woman, half out of the wall, guys, not even real, she was half out of the wall, leaning out of the wall like this, and she turned her head, and she looked at me, and she smiled, and it was so weird, because it's I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I looked at her, and it's it all happened so quickly. I remember looking away and then thinking, oh my God, I just saw a woman. And I knew her features and everything registered in my mind, so I could tell what she was, dressed and looked like. By the time I had the chance to look back, she was gone. Nothing was there. But I remember that she had her hair up in a bun, almost like Victorian era bun. And she had a very high collar dress on. And it was kind of like a grayish color with a white lace through here, and I remember she had some kind of pin. I don't know if it was a cameo pin or what, but there was some kind of pin at the neck of her dress, and that was all I saw of her, because I only saw half of her body sticking out of the damn wall. Little things like that would happen throughout the house. After the Ouija board was gone, me and my cousin and my sister, we got back to good terms again. We weren't afraid of one another. We weren't fighting with one another. Everything went back to the same normal, but the activity in the house was still there. And I don't know, it was just really weird. I moved out of the house when I was about 17 and a half years old, and about 3 years later, the house burned down. I remember I was already married to my first husband, and my aunt called me, and she told me that their house had burned down that day, and they never could find out why the house burned down. The fire marshal came in, and they looked around, and they could not find out. To this day, they have no idea what started that fire. No idea. All they could say was that the fire started in the basement. That's my haunted house story. I'm going to go ahead and go. This video is already like over 20 minutes long, so I have a lot of editing to do. See you guys in the next video of the V-File.